Tonight, let's sit down together and listen to one of South Korea's darkest mysteries. The case occurred in 2006 in the peaceful city of Jeonju. The victim was a promising veterinary student, a kind and intelligent girl on the cusp of a bright future. However, after one fateful night, she vanished into thin air, leaving behind a rental room full of strange clues and an unending sorrow for her family.
The girl's name was Lee Yoon Hee, 29 years old. Yoon Hee was not an ordinary student. She had previously graduated with degrees in statistics and fine arts from the prestigious Ewha Women's University in Seoul. But due to her immense love for animals, she decided not to start working immediately and instead pursued veterinary medicine at Chonbuk National University. She was a determined girl, always achieving excellent results and beloved by her friends.
In June 2006, Yoon Hee was preparing for her most important graduation exam. Everything seemed perfect for this final year student, but no one expected that those beautiful days would be the beginning of a haunting tragedy. A tragedy that began at a farewell party, where joyful laughter concealed terrifying intentions lurking in the shadows. Let's turn back time to June 5th, 2006. It was a Monday, but the atmosphere at the veterinary department was bustling. After class, Yoon Hee, along with over 40 students and professors, went to a pub near the school to celebrate. The next day was Memorial Day, a national holiday, so everyone let loose without any worries about studies or work.
The party lasted until late into the night. Wine flowed freely and toasts were endless. Yoon Hee also immersed herself in the joy, laughing and talking a lot. Around 2:30 a.m., as the alcohol took effect and the party was winding down, Yoon Hee stood up to leave. At this point, a male student, let's call him A, expressed concern and offered to walk her back to a rental room to ensure her safety. Student A had in fact secretly harbored feelings for Yoon Hee for a long time. Although they hadn't officially announced their relationship, the entire department implicitly understood their ambiguous connection. Yoon Hee's rental room was about 1.5 kilometers from the pub, a mere 15-minute walk. In the silent night, two figures walked side by side on the deserted road. No one knew what they talked about, only that it was the last time anyone saw Yoon Hee. When they were near her home, Yoon Hee turned and told A to go home as she was safely there. A obeyed, but lingered, watching her small figure enter the rental house. Only when he saw the light in her room turn on, signaling her safe entry, did A feel reassured and turn to walk home. A seemingly peaceful end to a fun evening, but in reality it was not. The next day, June 6th, was a holiday, so no one contacted Yoon Hee. But by June 7th, when everyone returned to class, Yoon Hee was still absent. This was highly unusual for a diligent student who had never missed class without permission. A began to feel worried. After class, he rushed to her rental room to check on her, a sense of foreboding rising within him. Upon arrival, A found the doors still locked. He knocked repeatedly, calling Yoon Hee's name in vain, but there was no answer. Inside, only the faint, mournful barking of a dog could be heard. Thinking that Yoon Hee might have gone somewhere or had an urgent matter, A reluctantly returned home, reassuring himself that everything was fine. But Yoon Hee's silence extended to the next day. On June 8th, Yoon Hee was still nowhere to be found. 2 consecutive days of absence from class, no permission, and an unreachable phone. Worry enveloped the entire class. A decided to gather 3 other friends and return to Yoon Hee's rental room. The situation was exactly the same as the day before, the door locked, faint dog barks echoing from within. This time, they knew for sure that something terrible had happened to them. They called Yoon Hee's parents in her hometown, but the family confirmed she had not returned home. Panicked, the group of students decided to call the police at 112 to report her missing. The police quickly arrived and proceeded to force open the door. When the door swung open, a chaotic scene met their eyes, completely contrary to the neat and tidy nature of the room's usual occupant. The room was incredibly messy. Belongings were scattered everywhere. Yoon Hee's 2 pet dogs appeared to have been starved for days. They barked weakly, exhausted. It seemed that due to extreme hunger, The dogs had rummaged through the trash can and every corner looking for food, making the room even more squalid. But the most terrifying thing was that Yoon Hee was nowhere to be seen. She had vanished without a trace. Initially, the police did not pay much attention to the case. They thought it was just a typical runaway case, or that the young woman had gone somewhere for a few days to find inspiration for painting, as was her hobby. There were no clear signs of struggle or altercation in the room. This initial complacency by the investigators inadvertently caused the most crucial clues of the case to gradually slip away with time.
While waiting for Yoon Hee's family to arrive from their hometown, her group of friends, including A, made a fatal mistake they would regret forever. Wanting to help and fearing that Yoon Hee's parents would be shocked by the mess, they rolled up their sleeves and cleaned the crime scene. They wiped the floor, swept, and rearranged belongings, inadvertently erasing any fingerprints or traces the culprit might have left behind. While cleaning, a female friend named B even took clothes to wash. She discovered clothes already in the washing machine, 4 bath towels and a pair of underwear. It seemed the machine had finished washing, but the clothes hadn't been hung to dry. This detail was extremely strange. Why were there so many bath towels in one load for someone living alone? And why were the washed clothes left forgotten in the damp machine drum like that? Furthermore, they found 400,000 won in cash carelessly left on the table. This was money Yoon Hee had just received from her part-time job. If it had been a robbery, this money would certainly not have remained there. Additionally, a bouquet of dried flowers used for decoration, which was originally hung on the wall, had fallen to the floor. Who dropped it? Or was there some kind of collision that occurred at this spot? Around 6 p.m. that day, Yoon Hee's family arrived. Her older sister, guided by intuition, rushed to check every corner. She found a cigarette butt on the windowsill. This was very strange, because Yoon Hee used to smoke but had quit a long time ago. Was this a cigarette she smoked again due to stress? Or was it a trace left by the perpetrator who had stood there, lurking and smoking while waiting for the opportune moment? The family also discovered that the clothes Yoon Hee wore to the party the previous night had disappeared. Yoon Hee was a very clean person. She would change clothes immediately upon returning home. The disappearance of her clothes suggests that she might not have changed, or someone had taken those clothes along with her. A complete disappearance of both the person and personal belongings. Another important detail was that her daily school backpack was still in the house. Inside, it contained all her books, notebooks, and pens. According to her friends, she had worn this backpack to the party. The fact that it was at home proved that Yoon Hee had definitely returned to her room safely that night. So what happened after the room door closed? Who could have gotten inside? The next strange thing was the disappearance of her notebook. Yoon Hee was an extremely disciplined and organized person. She meticulously recorded everything, from expenses and study schedules to personal feelings, in a notebook she always carried with her. Her backpack was there, but the most important notebook was nowhere to be found. Could it be that the notebook contained secrets that the culprit had to dispose of? The deeper the investigation went, the more inconsistencies became apparent. Yoon Hee's friends discovered that her low study table, a short-legged table she loved to use for studying or drinking tea, had also vanished without a trace. Why would such a bulky item disappear? Why would the culprit steal that old table when cash was still untouched on the table? Digital forensics police began examining Yoon Hee's computer. They uncovered a chilling piece of data. At 2:59 a.m. on June 6th, approximately 30 minutes after she parted ways with student A, her computer was turned on. The browsing history showed that someone had searched for the keywords sexual harassment and 112 within a brief. After that frantic 3-minute search, there were no further operations on the computer until 4:21 a.m., more than an hour later. At 4:21 a.m., the computer was forcibly shut down by unplugging it or holding the power button, not by the normal shutdown procedure. Yoon Hee would never shut down her computer in such a damaging way. Who was it that did that? A hypothesis was formed. Perhaps Yoon Hee had been harassed at the party but dared not speak up. Upon returning home, she went online to find out how to report it. But it's also possible that the perpetrator himself performed those searches to create false evidence, misleading the police into thinking it was a sexual assault case, while the real motive was entirely different. 4 days after her disappearance, on the night of June 10, location tracking showed her account logged into a music website and checked email. The access location was from a hotel in Seoul. Police immediately went there to extract CCTV footage, but saw no sign of Yoon Hee. Someone was impersonating her, using her account to create a smokescreen, making everyone believe she was still alive and moving.
Returning to the missing table, a week later, Yoon Hee's father, in a desperate search for his daughter around the area, discovered his daughter's wooden tabletop in a pile of trash 20 meters from the house. But the terrifying thing was that the 4 iron legs of the table had been detached. The marks indicated that someone had meticulously used a screwdriver to unscrew them, not broken them off.
Why would the culprit spend time unscrewing each bolt to remove the table legs? Criminal investigators suggest that a struggle might have occurred that night. The culprit might have used a hammer or a hard object to attack Yoon Hee, and the table might have been stained with blood or damaged, becoming important evidence, so he had to dispose of it, disassembling it for easier concealment. Speaking of the hammer, police checked the toolbox in Yoon Hee's house and found that the hammer had also disappeared. A table missing its legs, a missing hammer, and a vanished girl. Everything was gradually painting a horrifying picture of a murder committed inside a sealed room, where the scene was later cleaned to a chilling degree. Suspicion again fell on A. Police discovered a shocking detail in the computer's history. Between 3 a.m. and 4:21 a.m. that day, the computer's history had been intentionally deleted. Who was calm enough and technologically savvy to do this immediately after committing a crime? Could it be the secretly infatuated friend? A exhibited an obsessive, almost pathological behavior towards Yoon Hee. He remembered every outfit she wore and even secretly collected her hair. When questioned by the police, A claimed that after taking her home, he went to sleep until 10 a.m., but no one could corroborate that statement because he lived alone. A's testimony was entirely one-sided and lacked an alibi.
The peak of suspicion was when police found Yoon Hee's missing notebook in the school laboratory. But strangely, it was conspicuously placed on a lab table. The notebook contained detailed entries up until June 5th. Who brought that notebook to school? Did Yoon Hee forget it before the party? Or did the culprit intentionally place it there to mislead?
The shirt A wore that night was seized by police for testing. They found bloodstains. However, forensic results showed it was animal blood. As a veterinary student, getting animal blood on clothes was normal, but this coincidence still sent shivers down people's spines. A passed the lie detector test. His biological indicator showed no fluctuations. The case reached a dead end. However, there was another, more terrifying clue related to the veterinary department. At Chonbuk National University, where Yoon Hee studied, there was an incinerator for experimental animal carcasses. Typically, this incinerator processed about 40 kilograms of animal carcasses each week. But in the fateful week Yoon Hee disappeared, the incineration volume suddenly surged to 110 kilograms. Why such a large discrepancy at the end of the semester, when major experiments had mostly concluded? What was that extra 70 kilograms? Or who? The horrifying hypothesis was that the culprit used the school's own incinerator to dispose of the victim's body. If true, the culprit must have been extremely knowledgeable about the veterinary department's operations. Besides the hypothesis of an acquaintance, police also did not rule out the possibility that Yoon Hee was being stalked by a strange pervert. Opposite her rental house was an abandoned house. Police found cigarette wrappers and toilet paper in that house, at a location that offered a direct view into Yoon Hee's room. Had someone been hiding in the shadows, watching the young girl's every move each night? Another female student living nearby, named D, once recounted a terrifying experience. She was once followed by a strange man up to the second floor of her rental complex late at night. She had to scream for him to run away. The area around Yoon Hee's rental house had no surveillance cameras and lacked security.
It was a paradise for predators lurking for girls living alone.
Months turned into years, and the clues gradually faded. The deleted computer data, the table missing its legs, the suspicious incinerator, and the infatuated friend A, all were just fragmented pieces of an incomplete puzzle. No body, no murder weapon, no direct witnesses. The case slowly sank into a stalemate.
Nearly 20 years have passed since that fateful night. Yoon Hee's parents have grown old in immense pain. They have printed thousands of flyers, traveled all over South Korea to find their daughter, even if it was just a glimmer of hope. They still believe their daughter is alive somewhere, or at least they need to find an answer so their daughter can rest in peace. The Lee Yoon Hee case became one of South Korea's most famous cold cases, leaving a haunting legacy for generations of students. Was Yoon Hee murdered by her secretly infatuated classmate and disposed of in the incinerator? Or did she fall into the hands of a serial killer lurking in the shadows? The answer remains buried somewhere in the city of Jeonju. Our story today ends here, but the pain of those left behind remains. This case is a warning to all of us about our personal safety, about the dangers that can strike at any time, even from those we know. Thank you for listening. Please leave your thoughts on the real culprit in the comment section. Goodbye, and see you again.